This video is for graphing quadratic functions. So the graph of a quadratic function is called a parabola and has a curved shape. One of the main points of a parabola is its vertex. The vertex is the highest or lowest point on the graph. Okay, so what we have is a word problem. And it says a ball is dropped from a height of 100 feet. The quadratic function is f of x equals negative 16 x squared plus 100, where negative 16 is acceleration due to gravity in feet per second. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to complete this table. And so the easiest way to do that, in your calculator, if you go to y equals, and you type that function in, negative 16 x squared, and then plus 100, you can do second and then table, and it brings all the values up for you. So now these are only the whole number values, so we'll have to figure the others by hand. So at 0 time, 0 seconds, the ball is at 100 feet. Okay, at 1 second, the ball is at 84 feet, and at 2 seconds, the ball is at 36 feet. So now to figure the rest of the values. So the other option that we have to find these values is to type the function in this side, in the calculator side, and then instead of the x, remember we put letters in parentheses, but we can swap them out with the time values, which are our x values, and get our y values, our height. And then to do it again, so we can just go up. And so this time we need to swap that out with 1.5, and we get 64. And then we're going to swap it out with 2.5, and that's a 0. So that's when it hits the ground. Okay, so on this graph, the x-axis is time, the y-axis is the height, and then we're going to graph our points. So we've got 0, 100, so that's up here, 0.5 and 96, so about halfway in between, 1 and 84, so 1 and 84, and then 1.5 and 64, 2 and 36, and then 2.5 and 0. And then once I have plotted those points, I can connect. So I'm going to turn this here because it's easier for me to connect these sideways. And so I can connect the dots. And so this function looks like this on a graph. Now it says y is only quadrant 1 used for the graph of this quadratic function. So why didn't we keep going into the negative x values? So if you remember, the x is time, and we don't have negative time. We don't count in negative 1 seconds, negative 2 seconds, or negative 2 seconds. So for down here, you're going to put the x-axis represents time, and time cannot be negative. The y-axis, so that's why we didn't go this way. So now why didn't we go across the y-axis? Well, if the ball hits the ground, if 0 is the ground, unless we're throwing it into a hole in the ground, the ball is going to stop. It's not going to go down. The height is not going to decrease anymore. So the y-axis represents the height of the ball from ground level and cannot be negative. So this graph and word problem here are a good example of projectile motion, which we will get into later in this unit. So it's just kind of a good idea to have kind of an introduction to it, what projectile motion looks like.